We're live. All right, wicked. Hello and welcome back to the Porky's podcast. And with me today is possibly one of the most well-known content creators in World of Warships. I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say he's been influential to literally the entire player base. If you haven't watched an ichase video, someone has you've spoken to. Let's just get into it. Ichase, thank you so much for being here, dude. It's an honor.
Absolutely. Good to be here. And hello, everybody.
So, before we get into what I'm expecting people expect you to be here for, can you just give a quick background on yourself? How'd you get into gaming, etc.?
Oh man, that's a long story there. That's a long story. Wow. Started gaming. I think very first time I really had like my own system. Started playing probably back in the days of RuneScape, like the original one, not the current modern version. And then that iterated to like Counter Strike again, the original sort of 1.0, 1. Then 1.5, and then 1.6, and then didn't really play much of the next version after that because just wasn't too interested in it. And then sort of played a bunch of FPS shooters on the way. A lot of the free ones, a lot of the paid ones. And then I guess as just time went by, the reflexes kind of started going. Don't have the Twitch reflexes as I had when I was like 18 and 19. So eventually moved on to games that were a little bit slower paced. And that's how initially I started with a warship game called Navy Field and played that for a bunch of years. And then eventually Wargaming started coming out with their product. So first tried a bit of World of Tanks, played that for a while. And eventually when ships came around, then I pretty much jumped onto that because tanks at the end of the day really wasn't my thing on an interest level historically.
Yeah. So, did you start creating content for tanks, or did you primarily start when you were playing World of Warships?
I think I started a couple of videos for tanks. This is like way back in the day. Did it for about a month, and then maybe 2 months. And then just kind of saw that it really wasn't going the way that it could have, I guess, and then decided to take I guess, reevaluation of what I really wanted to do, and then eventually pivoted into things that I was more interested in, which was naval warships.
Yeah.
So that kind of just spiraled into into where it is now.
Yeah. So, just talking about your content, you've dedicated a lot of your content to teaching the average and the new players. And what I kind of want to ask is, what drew you to the idea of teaching? Do you have a background in teaching, or?
Yeah, so I have a degree in education, and I have my like formal teaching license. So yeah, that's just kind of something I've kind of, I don't know, gotten used to doing over all these years. So it just kind of naturally kind of went that way. And so content naturally went towards teaching stuff. Whereas teaching history at the beginning and then later on to more sort of gameplay mechanics and things like that. One of the other things was that at the very beginning of World of Warships, there wasn't a lot of anything really from wargaming mechanics related. So a lot of things was like you kind of figuring it out yourself. So I did a lot of the early work in terms of figuring out like core mechanics of the game, and so like a lot of the first generation players, they picked up a lot of the gameplay stuff from me. So yeah.
Yeah, because when I first started, the big YouTubers were you, Flamu, and Jingles. They were the only three I could really find that were informative. I mean, Jingles
Yeah,
not so much, but
he's a
you know,
storyteller. He's got a different thing. Yeah, but I was always the mechanics guy at the beginning, so that's kind of how the whole thing ran for me.
yeah, yeah. So there's been a lot of changes in the way World of Warships is now in regards
Many,
to what it used
too
to
many.
be. Gosh, it's been so much. Um, what I kind of want to ask you is, how do you feel the game is balanced, and how do you feel it should be balanced? Because I've heard a lot of people say, a lot of unicums tell me, oh, well, the rocket attack change is completely stupid because the horizontal vertical rocket, the horizontal reticle for the rockets was just enough. Then other people tell me, oh no, this delay is fantastic because I get dumpstered in destroyers. Can I kind of get just your take on that?
Oh man, that's a big question. It's a lot bigger than you think. Wow, we gotta go all the way back, I guess, to the core World of Warships thing, right? Which is how do you balance a game in the first place, right? So wargaming, I think, over the years has taken on the philosophy that they're balancing more to the average player, and that's what they care about, right? They want to keep the majority of their casual average player base as happy as possible, right? So they avoid any kind of mechanic or gameplay thing that requires too much skill or too much nuance or too many complex mechanics or anything that really involves the word complexity. Wargaming is like pretty much adverse to that. So they always try to balance. Yeah, and I'm not even kidding. We've had this conversation. Oh, at least I've had this conversation with some of the guys at Wargaming, and it's like that pretty much is all. The ending answer. It's like, oh no, we can't do that. Well, why can't you? It's too complicated. I mean, serious. um, so yeah, they're very adverse to complexity. They don't like complex mechanics. They don't like things that are too skill intensive, right? Because they're really trying to cater to that majority player base as much as possible. Now, do I agree with that approach? Not necessarily. I can understand why they would do it. I can understand them wanting to keep the sort of casual player base happy, right? Like making them always able to do something, in a game. But truthfully, I don't think it's really done much good in terms of their overall game design and a lot of their decision making. So, for example, the original carrier design, and the not the original, not the RTS one, but the rework design was designed for those casual players to be able to pick up a carrier and go. And we can talk about how successful that has been, which is not very much. And some of the things, like let's say the rocket changes, which is the most recent change. Is it a good change? Yeah, I think it's a good change. To a certain degree, it's made destroyer lives a little bit easier. Do I think it's the best change? No, I think there's still some issues. Some of the rockets almost become completely useless against destroyers, which is a problem because in certain configurations, carriers basically just don't do anything to destroyers anymore, which is a kind of a problem because you see sort of rampant destroyers, which is what you're seeing right now, right? Like 4 or 5 destroyers per game,
Yeah.
because they're basically, they're just not being countered by anything from anything other than a destroyer, really. So that is a problem. But here's the issue, right? Like if you go all the way back, you're like, okay, so how did this disparity come in the first place? Well, the disparity really comes from the fact that the original design of destroyers versus carriers is that there was real like nothing in terms of counterplay. If you're a destroyer and a carrier decides to come after you with rockets, what did you do? Well, your only counterplay was smoke. That's it. And Wargaming's infamous line, just dodge, right? Like that was what you were supposed to do, which that's not really much of a defense, right? And Destroyer A was really, really pathetic, and it didn't really help destroyers against carriers. So fundamentally, it's because of the original design decision to make it really, really simplified, right? With no complex mechanics. So, for example, there's no manual AA at all to speak of. That really put the destroyer in that position where it was hyper vulnerable against carriers. Everything else afterwards has just been band-aids, right? Like, oh, let's just add this delay to rocket planes. That's a band-aid to make destroyer lives easier, right? It's not really solving any of the core, issues, right? Because if you think about it, that frustration element with carriers versus everything is still in the game. It's just for everybody else.
Yeah.
If you're a cruiser and a carrier decides, yeah, you know what, I'm coming after you, what can you do? Nothing.
Just dodge.
Yeah. If you're a battleship and something like a Franklin Delano Roosevelt decides that you must die,
GG.
Yeah, just have fun, right? Like
Fun
I just
and
remember
engaging.
yesterday. Yeah, I think I was playing a game yesterday where I was in an FDR and literally there was a gross occur first. And I just decided for whatever reason that day I was having a bad day, right? I was just like, oh, I'm just gonna make his life a little bit miserable. And the poor guy basically did one thing and one thing only. He just sat around and spun around and capped the whole game, like literally from like I farmed 135k damage off of the guy, but he literally just went around in circles in the starting cap point because he couldn't go anywhere, right? Anywhere he went, oh, here's another wave of bombers. Oh, here's another wave of torpedo bombers. Oh, here's another, So like fundamentally, the core gameplay design of carriers was problematic, right? Like, and the reason it's problematic is because Wargaming always wants really, 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 really sort of simplified stuff because they just cannot put in complexity because the casual player base is not going to know what the hell to do with this, right? So they're very avoidant, and it leads to a lot of their like subsequent problems, right? And that's like kind of just their thing, that they've always sort of had this problem. It's just gotten worse, more and more sort of in that downward direction in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a CV player by trade, I guess you say. I play at least 10 to 15 games, and yeah, it's just dodge. It's easy, guys.
I don't buy that at all.
Yeah, no, just dodge doesn't work. The spreadsheet says it does.
Oh yeah, of course. Wargaming's
Yeah.
infamous spreadsheet. Oh yeah. Anytime you bring up a balance complaint, out comes the spreadsheet. Hey, spreadsheet doesn't agree with you. How data shows otherwise. Well, okay. Can't argue
Yeah.
with that.
Well, so I've asked my previous guest this. It's kind of been a long running question I've had, and I'd love your take because, and I guarantee you'll have a different answer. How do you feel that 2CVs has affected the clan battles environment if you play much clan battles? I don't know how much you play.
So not really active in clan battles. Mostly because I just kind of I don't know, just wasn't really too into it. That constant need to be hyper competitive, the constant need to be, it's like in my case I had been dealing with a lot of things, like content creation wise and whatever at the time. And then on top of that, practice and this and that, I was just like, no, not really into the whole clan battles thing.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I mean, put it this way, if you think about it, right? You have 12 versus 12 battles, which are randoms, and 2CVs are already absolute pain in the neck in games where you have significantly more targets on your team for them to shoot at or to attack. Now you condense it into a 7 versus 7 where two of them are carriers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, just on a purely logical front, no, that was gonna be awful straight up, and it's reflected by the fact that basically it's two very engaging, balls of smoke engaging each other with the
Yeah.
carriers flying around. I mean, that's basically what it turned into. No, I mean it's awful. It's pretty horrible decision. I mean, and it's gonna get worse because if you look at Wargaming's trajectory, I mean we're going for the days of CVs and submarines and in the future. I don't. I'm not a.
I'm gonna
I mean,
start a
look at the rank
petition.
season already, right? Like just look at the rank season with submarines. I
Yeah.
mean,
It's
the
horrible.
games get dragged out so much because guess what? Even though we win, nope, there's this one submarine that's decided to YOLO off in some corner because he just doesn't want to get killed.
Yep.
Congratulations, So yeah, I mean, not the world's best decisions. I think on Wargaming's behalf. Yeah.
I'm gonna start a petition. Keep submarines out of clan battles, please. Please.
They might listen to you for the first season after submarines enter, but then the second one, no, they're just gonna ignore you. It's like, it's kind of like anything that wargaming touches, their plan is eventually that everything they put into the game has to make it into that environment. So they might heed the warning initially, but eventually it'll arrive. It's like competitive, right? Like, if you think way back in the day, like there's gonna be no CVs,
Yeah.
in the sort of the high level competitive stuff. I mean, it's gonna come. Like wargaming is gonna force it in. It was again rework, by the way. I know back in the RTS days, there were tournaments whatever with RTS CVs, but post rework, it's generally been like no CVs. But in the future, yeah, I wouldn't I wouldn't wager it against wargaming to eventually put it in.
That'd be horrible. I don't think people realize how obnoxious RTS CVs were.
RTS CVs were bad in terms of their alpha strike, but in other ways, RTS CVs were also incredibly vulnerable to DFAA and AA specialized ships. You had back in the day literal no-fly zones, right? And plus CVs
Yeah.
would have to fight each other with fighters. So if you actually watch like two high-level CV players, like yeah, they would fight each other into a stalemate, right? Because they would be attacking and fighting each other. So it also gives a sense of a break to your own team. These days, no, you should watch a lot of two CV like CV on CV games. It's like they're just attacking surface ships
Yeah.
repeatedly, and it's like it's a damage race. Who can get more damage, which is kind of silly as well. RTS CVs, honestly, like they were bad in terms of the mechanical skill required, and so there you had that massive skill disparity. The good high APM players would do amazing if they knew what they were doing, and the ones who couldn't do it were just food, right? But as a surface ship, there was at least some ways of protecting yourself. You could get like DFA and spec for A. You'd have a chance. You'd actually hurt the CV by taking airplanes down because there used to be a set limit of airplanes.
Yeah.
None
Also,
of that matters anymore. You can shoot down 50 airplanes and the CV goes, I still have more.
yeah.
So it's like, and speaking of the whole high alpha problem, that's coming back. The Russian CVs are coming, and they're basically an Alpha Strike CV. It's just like Wargaming, you guys mentioned that this was a problem back in the day. You didn't want the high alpha, and it's back. Like, why? But that's kind of their way of doing things. It's really, yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen anything on, or I've seen the Grozvoy clip. You know the one I'm talking about, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. I kind of like the look of the Russian CVs because the more planes you shoot down, big joke, the less armaments coming at you. But
Yeah, they changed the system. They made it so that now they have a lot of reserves. So you shoot down like a full squadron, they'll come back with a full squadron again. So
yeah.
I don't think they really fixed the situation. Now they've just made it more annoying. But am
As
I
a
surprised? No.
yeah. As a follow-up question, what are some changes you think Wargaming could do to induce kind of a more positive reaction towards CVs?
Oh, holy hell. I think it's too late. I think it's too late to really try to fix that. Unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, Wargaming's sort of desire for really simplified mechanics has really toned the entire sort of CV surface ship interaction down to a glorious spreadsheet. I mean, Wargaming loves their spreadsheets, but that's basically where we've gone, is this glorious spreadsheet. Because if you think about it, right, if and you're a CV player, so you should understand, if you attack a certain ship and you go, okay, I know the ship, I know how much DPS the A, will output, which means that on my attack run in, I'm guaranteed to lose 2 airplanes, which means that once I exit, assuming that I don't eat any flak, I will be able to turn back around and still attack with a subsequent attack and get a full strike off, with losing only 3 airplanes maximum. Like, you can literally calculate it down to a spreadsheet number. I mean, that's what Wargaming has done with CVs. And on the surface ship, your entirety is just dodge and the tilde key to get sector reinforcement. It's not a lot of counterplay on your part. And I think that's what raises that frustration level, because people can't defend themselves. It's kind of the same issue that they would have originally with the destroyers. Destroyers couldn't defend themselves, so that's why rocket planes are super frustrating. I pitched an idea to Wargaming back in the day to make a semi-manual anti-aircraft system, just to give it so that there's some skill and some counterplay. And basically the answer was, oh no, we can't do this. It's too complicated. And the other answer to me was, oh, but you're Unicum. You can handle this. The average player cannot. And it's like, they literally think of their average players, no joke, as a bunch of stupid potatoes that are basically walking ATMs to be milked. That's all they see them as, right? Like, you're too stupid to handle this. I mean, just look at the CV rework design. You're literally too stupid in their eyes to control your own carrier.
Yeah.
That's why everything's automated. Your DCP, that's automated. Your ability to, like, defend yourself, that's automated with the fighter. Like, it kind of gives you a insight into the way they see their player base, and it's frustrating because you hear it from them, right? Like, you talk to them and you hear the way they talk about it, and it's frustrating because they don't care about making things better. They don't care to actually improve the game or the mechanics or anything. They just care that as long as we have enough casual whales that we can milk and they're there to play our game, fantastic. That's the core goal, right? And yeah, I mean, you've heard it from a lot of other CCs. I'm not the one and only one. You've heard it from a ton of CCs that have left the program now, that they're like, it's a toxic relationship. Wargaming just doesn't listen. Their whole focus is on how they can monetize better, how they can make as much money as humanly possible out of as many players as possible. And if they need to give those players the easiest way to win a game, so be it. If they wanted to make an HE spam heavy ship that you can just load one and win, yeah, they would give it to you.
It's
Actually, they have, if you think
it's
about it.
called Thunderer. Um, Smolensk.
Yeah, a lot of the HE spammers.
Yeah. It's tremendously sad to see the kind of the degradation in Wargaming's morals because they've put out such a tremendous product. Like, I would be heartbroken when this game dies. Like, heartbroken. It's such a good game, but the
I,
way.
I I would agree with you. Probably a couple years ago. These days I'm a lot less sympathetic to them. A lot less sympathetic to their situation, because they're basically doing it themselves. Like, they're choosing to do it.
Yeah. I'm talking more about the game itself. Is when when you get to play the game, it's tremendously fun. Like, they're oh, not the game design, but
Yeah, just the actual playing.
Yeah.
I partially agree with you there. Some of it can be really frustrating, but yeah, you can have you can have the fun moments. I mean, I still enjoy just playing with friends. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
If nothing else, the community itself, not the general community, but the community within your own clan, etc., your friends.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So we've kind of teased it, but I'd be disappointed in myself if we didn't talk about the CC apocalypse, as people are calling it.
Well, yeah, apocalypse is right, I guess.
I'm gonna trademark that by the way.
Sure.
Do you feel this latest PR stunt speaks to a systematic toxic work culture that's been manifested in wargaming, where they'd rather save face than recognize the hard work by community contributors and people that play their game?
So, like, yeah, we sort of talked about it, right? I think wargaming is just primarily concerned with how much dollars they can rake in. That's it. That's their whole driving force now. And I think what they've done is also they've put the people who are very focused on that particular thing, the marketing and sales type thing. They've put those people into positions of power within the company. And so what you've got right now is that even if you were, let's say, somebody who did end up going to work at Wargaming as, let's say, a community manager or whatever, right? You're going to walk in, and let's say you have some good ideas of how to make things better. You're going to run into that sort of top level executive decisions, which is always, no, we're going to just do this. We're going to go monetization. We're going to go more of whatever we can to milk this player base out of every penny that they are willing to give us, right? Just to put things into perspective, right? Remember, just to put this into perspective, look at how much they're charging just for certain premium ships, right? And now, of course, we've got on top of that, we've got the loot boxes, right? I mean, I think, like God knows what the actual number of crates are going to be for like Missouri, but if it's like even close to like Johan de Witt, that's like $300-400 that they want out of you in order to get one ship, right? And I mean, just think about that. That's money if you were to really go out and you actually think about it. With that amount of money, you could literally buy how many AAA titles? Like at
Oh,
least three now. I mean, we're talking like the deluxe collector's edition type stuff.
mm-hmm.
You could buy at least three, and those games would give you how much time worth of entertainment
Yeah,
versus one premium ship, which is like, let's be honest, think about on average how many times and how many battles you play in an average premium ship, right? How many of them just end up rusting around in port doing absolutely nothing, and how many of them do you actually end up playing for hundreds of thousands of battles? Right. So wargaming, is just they're just pushing that, make money point like to the like absolute limit, And one of the sad things is realizing that only some of the player base has actually woken up to it and many of them haven't, right? Like a lot of people are still very much in the, get milked stage and they're okay with that. I mean, that's the reality of the situation, right? Like wargaming continues because people pay money for it, right? Until they see some sort of major impact to their quarterly earnings or something like that, then maybe some change will happen. But for now, the wrong people are in charge. The wrong
yeah,
people are in the upper management positions, and they're focused all on how much money they can make. What's the next quarterly profit report they can rate? They can write to make themselves look good, right? And if you have this constant drive to go more and more earnings on a player base that, according to Wargaming, it has been mostly stable. If you just think about that for a second, mostly stable, and yet you need to increase your earnings. How would you do that? See? So it's mostly about just milking more people, right? Out of, or as many people as they can. And, and if people leave, aggressively recruiting new people who will throw money at them immediately because new people don't know any better, right? So
yeah. I mean, look at
it's
their new
it's depressing.
affiliate program thing.
Yeah, and you just look at like on Twitch now, how many sponsored ad World of Warships streamers do you see, right? It's the same thing. They're just trying to get as many new people in as possible, right? Before there's that inevitable sort of decline, and then and then what? Just keep milking? I don't know. It's a weird strategy that they're pursuing, but I guess it's working for them because the quarterly profit reports must look really good.
Yeah. I mean, just pushing back on your how many premiums that you have Rust import. I have like 600 Georgia games.
Yeah, I mean, so
Yeah.
you've played 600 Georgia games, but how many premiums do you have in total?
Like 4 or 5
Oh,
import.
4 or 5. Import, okay.
Yeah.
And what would be your least played one,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? I mean, I have ones that I haven't touched, like out of like, I've played like maybe sub 10 games in some of them, right?
Oof.
Because they're just boring ships. And like, oh, no, I don't want to play this, right?
Yeah.
Um, just as another indication, by the way, for those people who aren't aware of how big this change has been, you just got to look back. When I started playing World of Warships way back in the day, right? Like, you think about it, the first generation standard boxes were considered very, very generous. They have progressively gotten worse over the years. It's
Yeah.
become less and less generous, and it's become more and more predatory, right? You think back in the day, the first time we had Arpeggio content, we got the Arpeggio ships free. Congo, Hiei, Haruna, Kirishima, those were all free. We got a free Takao. The ARP Takao, we got that free back in the
Yeah.
day. That's a tier 8 premium, basically, and we got it free. I mean, not saying that Wargaming should be giving out everything for free, but back in the day, they were quite generous with a lot of their stuff, right? They got that initial goodwill from the community because of how generous they were with a lot of things, right? Conversations with them back in the day, they were saying, yes, we make it an objective to be rather generous with our player base, right?
Hmm.
Like, we are going to monetize. There are things that we monetize, but we're going to be more generous about things. And then you look at recently, it's like, okay, no, we're not going to give you flags for achievements. We're going to take that away from you. Now they're just going to come in boxes, right?
Yeah.
When's the last time we got free, premium type ships like a Takao or something? Like never.
Yeah.
I don't remember any one in the last bunch of years, right? Um, and you just think of everything else they've done, like everything else they've changed around, even with Missouri this time around, right? Like, here's a ship that you old players got way back in the day with the good credit earnings. We are purposely going to take that away from you,
Hmm.
right? We're going to purposely do it now that data has come in that, like, yes, the ship doesn't make as much credits, and their whole thing has been exposed. They're just gonna be like, oh yeah, you know what, ooh yeah, we should just raise that a little bit, and that mission that they give us for the Missouri, I mean, it's additive, so it's not multiplicative with flags or anything like that. It's just additive, straight up flat whatever percent, which is a lot less credits if you actually are using flags, right? And then on top of that, it's like, I'll take a look at it, right? Like, the mission's bad and it's supposedly going to last only what, until the end of this year. And, they say that they're going to give it to us long term, but, hey, anybody remember those legendary module missions that we had back in the day? They were supposed to be permanent. Yeah, those disappeared one day so they can shove it in the armory, right? So, like, this is Wargaming's decline. This is actually what we're talking about. This is the reason why there's not a lot of goodwill left towards them, right? Aside from the PR disasters, which are just way too many to name, but just the overall way the company has conducted itself has just been, worse and worse and worse. They just keep pushing in that direction, right? And for those of us who've been around long enough to see this change, not particularly super thrilled with it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the first Christmas crates, and look, I bought the shit out of them because they were so good. Like, I think I got 10 to 12 premium ships. Most of them were
Yeah,
shit, but I got them for
yeah,
free,
and they gave
basically.
it out. Yeah, no, those crates used to be really quite good. They used to
Yeah.
drop things at quite a good rate. Not anymore. Um,
God, I got the Alabama,
oh
which was fantastic back in the day. I played like
yeah, yeah.
400 or 500 games in it, and it like really kickstarted me off playing World of Warships. Now, golly, you're not going to get
Exactly.
a
Now,
premium.
now you get shortlist. You get the crap first.
Muck it off.
Yeah, macro. We have official Christmas whatchamacallit, Santa crate stuffers now. Just really, really, really horrible ships they purposely put in there
Yeah.
for the sole purpose of just inflating that shortlist. Yeah.
So it's clear that wargaming has kind of gone past the point where just a simple admission of wrongdoing will suffice for many of the ex-CCs and ex-players, etc. If there is anything at all, what do you think is anything wargaming could do to kind of bring you back on side per se?
For me personally, not much. There's not much I think they can do left for me to want to go back to being one of their official CCs. In fact, these days I haven't really made anything for their game content wise. I haven't really streamed their game, haven't really made any videos for their game. It's just mostly because anytime I think about, content, I just immediately sort of turned off. It's just, I guess, this is a kind of a thing I got to train myself out of, right? I got to like redo stuff that make me enjoy content creation because unfortunately I've just been making too much World of Warships content for the last bunch of years, right? So it's like my default is to make Warships content
Yeah.
for the game. And now it's like suddenly it's like, yeah, I don't really want to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sort of starting to prep more sort of history stuff again, sort of going that direction, just to get away from the World of Warships, like the game, right? But sticking within at least the category and subject I enjoy. But yeah, in terms of going back and being quote unquote being brought back on side with wargaming, yeah, just not likely. I mean, I think right now, if anything, were to get me back on board at all, okay, and this is really insane because it's not going to happen. Is if the people causing the problems, because there are select employees at Wargaming St. Petersburg, which I honestly believe are the root cause of these problems, because as they've been promoted within the company, the problems have just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Um, I think if those people ended up being reassigned to different positions that are better suited for their capabilities, and we get somebody like Victor Kisley, who's Wargaming's overall CEO, come out and actually say, hey, we got it, we messed this up, right? We're going to try to do something about it. Like, maybe that would make me consider it, but I mean, realistically, they'd have to come and actually talk to me, right?
Yeah.
Which so far, mind you, hasn't happened. Let me just make this point really clear. Wargaming's North America community team, like last Saturday. Was it last Saturday when this whole thing exploded? God, it feels like it's been longer than that, but it's probably just been like a week and a bit.
I feel like that's
They
right.
Yeah, they actually sent me a DM. They're like, oh yeah, don't worry, we'll come and check in with you this week.
Yeah.
They have not. There has been absolutely no indication that they've checked in with anybody. So none of the CCs who have left have actually heard from them. So it just kind of goes to show you how little they give a damn about so many things. So again, not super optimistic about any real change happening. If it comes to the point where maybe Victor Kisley steps out and says, "Hey, X, Y, and Z, I'll do it to fix it," maybe we can talk about it then.
Yeah.
But until that happens, it's like no. There's legitimately people within the St. Petersburg office, which you're just like, no, you guys should not be in those positions. You have absolutely no idea how to do your job. But for some bizarre reason, I guess this is like a Russian thing or something like that. No, maybe it's just a wargaming thing. You can screw up at wargaming, supposedly. And I've seen more people get promoted after a screw up than getting fired. Which, it's just like, it's mind boggling. You're like, wait, what? Like, are you serious? Like you screwed this up this badly, and you got wow, and that's
Wow.
actually what's been going on. You've seen people who like post screw ups, post things that have blown up, have actually ended up getting moved up in the company. You're just like, okay, so
Nice. I wonder if that means Wargaming are hiring.
they're constantly are hiring, but would
Sweet.
you like to go work for them? I
Yeah, I'm
wouldn't.
constantly screwing things up, man. If that means I screw up and get a promotion, sign me up. Let's go. That's
Just
awful.
don't be just don't be like an English speaker. Make sure you like you're a Russian speaker. You live in Russia. Then you
Yeah.
probably, yeah. If you're an English speaker, well then yeah. If you screw up, they're gonna find a way to make your life hell.
He's disappearing back of country. He's
Yes,
go away.
yes, that comrade. We've accidentally moved him into Gulag. Yep, sorry. What? No, sorry. Did you hear Gulag? No, I didn't mean Gulag. Sorry. I meant glorious vacation to the country Dacha. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you think the chief reason the community is so up in arms at the moment? I understand overall why they're upset, but kind of the pimple's head, so to speak, is the controversy behind Little White Mouse. Do you think that is the primary reason people are upset?
I'm not sure about the community. I would say some people probably are. I'm sure it factors into how we feel about wargaming as community contributor, ex-community contributors, right? Seeing one of our own basically being used, I guess, in a really dirty kind of way, and then just kind of cast aside. Like, yeah, that kind of ruffled us in the wrong way. But I think this time, in terms of the Exodus, most of it was just three big things, right? Like three things really were the core. One of them was excessive amount of gambling, monetization, just this aggressive monetization, very predatory too, with loot boxes everywhere. Missouri, that was a pretty big thing this time. The absolute travesty, which is the World of Warships feedback channel on the Discord. It's like, if you saw some of the stuff that if you saw some of the conversations that went back and forth there, you would understand just how bad it was. I mean, we're talking utter like levels of disrespect, right? And being talked down to and being treated like you're an idiot and you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, we're talking about people who are super knowledgeable about the game and they would still talk to you that way, right?
Yeah.
And then of course, last of all, is just the overall I guess tone where and sort of like, yeah, we'll do this, we'll fix things, and then next thing you know, like they'll try to sound really like positive, and then in the background, fuck all, nothing happens, right? Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, language, but
No, it's
nothing
fine.
happens.
It's fine.
But that's the thing, right? They promised Little White Mouse, like, yeah, we're gonna improve this, we're gonna make communication better, we're gonna do all this work to make life more positive for and then like, what? Like, how
Yeah.
did in 6 weeks we go right back to the same problem? You know what I mean? And that's the kind of thing that really, I think those three things, those three core reasons, just sort of like loot boxes, horrible treatment within feedback, and then just sort of absolutely never fixing anything, no matter how bad things went and how much they promised, they never got fixed, or like the real three big reasons why people just said, that's it, we're just done, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's funny because the CCs who quit, and this includes myself, right? Like me, Flambass, Jingles, like, we're like super pessimistic about everything. Like, we're just like, no, I don't think wargaming is going to change, because we've seen it, right? We've seen this action over like 5 years or whatever. But we did it anyways, because end of the day, like, at least the way I see it, so I don't know about anybody else, but the way I see it is, at the end of the day, I still care about the overall community primarily, first and foremost, because they're the people that we all signed up to basically represent and help and to do things for. And we hit a point where it's like that just couldn't happen anymore. We made ourselves, if we continue to be within the program, we would look like company shills at that, if we just continue, right? So most of us just said, you know what, like, we hit a point and we're like, no, this can't continue. We just cannot do this role anymore. We're betraying our very core mission of being sort of that community representative in a way, right? At least in terms of concerns and stuff like that. Like, that's no longer happening, right? Like, we can't do this if we remain in this position. So most of us that at least that time around, we decided, you know what, we can't do this anymore, right? So we exit. And when we exit, let's be honest, I would rather exit with my reputation intact. I would rather leave being sort of maintaining my integrity than being stuck in there and just over time getting dragged through the mud.
Yeah.
Because eventually you will. Eventually you will. Like, if you just keep staying in the program, on the next screw up, you're gonna be there. And what are you gonna do then, right? If you decide not to leave on the next screw up, then people look at you kind of funny, right? And then you have one more screw up, let's say from Wargaming side, and you still stay in the program. Then people eventually are going to just decide that, hey, you know what? All of you guys who stayed, you're all just shills, right? You're just basically paid company shills, right? I mean, even though you're not paid, but people will see you that way. And no, I'm not going to be around for that. I'm not sitting around for that to happen. I'd rather leave and say, right, I left on my terms, on my principles, and I'm done with you guys. That's basically what happened. We just walked out, basically. But the good thing is, but the really, really good thing is, and this is the thing to be pointed out, is that even though we're all super pessimistic, like, you listen to Flambass, you listen to Jingles, you hear the pessimism. They're like, nothing's going to change. Wargaming is just stuck in their ways, right? But on the flip side, if I'm being objective about it, this cannot be good for Wargaming, because, considering how much gaming press ended up picking it up, right? Like PC Gamer picked it up, and, you started seeing like Kotaku pick it up, and now we have major YouTubers, right? Like, we're talking like, Jim Sterling for the Jimquisition, and then you had Young Ye, and then, you had like these sort of more mainstream non-World of Warship specific YouTubers picking it up. That's not good, right? Because that sort of spreads the message out that this company does these things, and more people who are not World of Warships players are going to see it. And those are the people that Wargaming really wants, right? The potential World of Warships players, right? So the fact that it is getting out there and there's more and more eyeballs on it is good, because at least it adds pressure to Wargaming. At least it puts that pressure on them to do something. And, maybe something changes. Maybe something, somewhere along the company, something changes, or nothing could change. And, me, Flambass, and Jingles, we could be right, just this whole super pessimistic thing. But it's really, like, Wargaming's overall behavior is really weird. I talked to some of the other people who work in like other gaming companies, And they would be like, man, if this happened to our company, like whoever was responsible would literally be losing their jobs right now. If not, like this current like absolute pandemonium within the company trying to address the issue. But
Yeah.
wargaming is like, what's going on, right? Like they have this whole thing blowing up in their face and they're just like nothing, right? They've just been really quiet and just very silent about things. So I don't know, it just kind of goes to show you where they are right now in terms of their management. And sooner or later they'll pay for it. But when is the sort of big question.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's not exactly surprising because it's a typical corporate thing. Never admit fault. Like, when this thing went down, I never expected Wargaming to be like, sorry, we fucked up. How bad?
Yeah, well, they should have done that though.
Yeah.
Would have actually solved a lot of problems, and they most likely would never have made it onto any kind of mainstream gaming news or other YouTubers. They would have never gone there if they actually admitted faults, and they just said, hey, you know what, we screwed up, we're sorry.
Yeah.
But hey, it's wargaming.
Do you feel that air quotes apology made things worse?
Yeah,
And if so, how much?
That wasn't an apology. That was awful. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
not
air
an
quotes.
apology at all. That was them trying to put out a non-statement, essentially, if you want to think about it that way. That was like pretty much them attempting to do the whole non-statement thing. But
Yeah.
it didn't help because they're like, I mean, you sort of see it within the mainstream sort of gaming media and like these YouTubers who then start covering it. They all talk about wargaming statement, but then they all give it the same reaction, like this is not an apology. What the hell is this, right? And it shows them badly, right? It shows wargaming in a bad light. Now, whether or not they recognize it, that's another story, right? Because I don't know what the hell's going on in St. Petersburg, but dear God, have they lost touch with everything, it seems like. Except money. They really, really like your money, you know? That's the one thing they have not, lost sight of. They really like your money. Just think about the way they even address the win back campaign. The win back one does. If you haven't played for a year or whatever, they try to win you back, and they literally put in their damn link, right? It was a win back because it was WB 0107, right, which is the patch number, right? So, and when win back is an industry term to try to win people back into their game, right, who used to play. So it totally makes sense that it's that term, and then literally they just categorize it as whales. Like I'd almost wager that the people they actually sent that email to were people who had spent money on their game before. Like they literally campaigned, like targeted that campaign to players who'd quit for longer than a year, who had spent money above, let's say, a certain amount threshold from before, and they just sent it out because not everybody got it, right? There are people who said, hey, I quit for a year and I never got this. What the hell's going on, right? Yeah. Like, so I think that's all they care about. Like I think Wargaming is like their sole main focus right now is just dollar signs. Like, if you got $100 to give them, they want it from you.
Yeah. And then the next $100 you got. And
yeah, exactly. They love the I'm sorry. Yeah, they just love people who have, in their eyes, disposable income. Notably people who are in the slightly older category who have more of it. That's their target audience. They just love those people because those people, like, they don't follow the news. They don't know what's going on in the game. They log on, blow up a ship for one battle. They log off at the end of the day. And if they can get those people to spend like, hey, $60 on new premium ship, new shiny, that's who they want.
Yeah, it's fucking terrible. I've been so good. I haven't swore for like 40 minutes, but fuck's sakes, it's terrible.
That's pretty
It's
brutal.
so frustrating. Look, as an Australian, I think that's the longest anyone's gone without swearing. I'm just saying.
You've been good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's brutal. It's actually brutal. Like, I don't know what happened. Like, I mean, I guess I can kind of understand it. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen it. There was a clip where I think it was like Steve Jobs was talking about Xerox, right? And talking about how Xerox ended up just basically like losing everything, in the grand scheme of things. And it was mostly because Xerox ended up as a company being run by the people who were in sales and marketing.
Yeah.
They stopped doing things that were innovative, and they stopped doing the research and the development and technology or whatever for the things to innovate things. World of Warships, if you really think about it, just sit down and think about it. We haven't had a new map in like 19 months. And the last map that we got that was quote unquote kind of new was a rehash of a map called North. they just kind of made it winter and put Aurora Borealis in it and made it look pretty. But we haven't had a map in like 19 months, like a real original innovative map. We've been playing the same bloody maps for that long. Now, some people can make the argument that yeah, okay, you know what? The entire maps team must be super busy just doing underwater stuff for submarines. Like, you can make that argument. You could make that argument. But you're telling me that that's it. Like, your entire team is just dedicated to doing, like, for 19 months, just only underwater submarine stuff, not one new map in production, for that long. And like, that's what we're getting at. It's brutal. Like, the stuff where they're supposed to be innovating things, like innovating new gameplay or new whatever, hasn't happened. We're playing the same game that we've been playing for like the last number of years. Nothing's changed. What we have seen change is the premium ships and the monetization, the loot boxes for everything, the ever increasing spam of new stuff that, like, gets your attention like constantly. That's been ramping up. But again, by the way, though, that's a different team than the maps team, right? But those are the guys that really have been doing a lot of stuff. Just everything else is not there. So you can kind of see where they've sort of shifted manpower to, right? It's like, oh yeah, this is so much easier because a map doesn't generate you money, but a new ship does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Shift the manpower in that direction. Yeah. And it's depressing.
It's because really you're watching. Depressing.
Yeah, it is. It's like you're watching the game and you're like, the hell is this? That's been the kind of overarching feel for me, which is, seeing them shift into this, state of just like, oh my God, how much can we get out of players, right? Like, I wonder if they like, and I'm guessing they probably do. I wonder if in the background they actually have, like, big data sets that just goes, right, so the average player is worth this much money. Because like I almost guarantee it that they have something like that in the background. And this comes up in their, like, discussions, like, okay, so the average player that we have is actually worth this much money. And if this player actually doesn't spend any money, he's actually also worth a certain amount because he provides content for other players to shoot at, the ones who are spending money. So, like, I wonder if they actually have those bloody metrics where they actually go, yeah, like, we can see what everybody's value is. And now we know where, all the people who spend money are going to be. So we just got to target that group more and more and more and more. You know what I mean? And I mean, just look at it. Like, look at every new. I mean, hell, like, didn't we got new containers again for, like, those like anime themed type things?
Oh yeah,
right. Yeah. Like I'm an anime person. Like, I watch anime, and I've never seen that anime before, right? But like when I saw it, I was like, oh, we're having another one. Like, like, geez, like, this is their objective now, right? It's like, what can we get you on, right? And of course, it's a container.
It's containers.
Bro, it's just more containers, right? I mean, permanent camo, that's a container too. Like, we might as well just, at the rate we're going, like, Wargaming is going to put in the bare minimum is anything else, and everything in the future is going to be container. Just, it's the better way, it's the better way to milk things out of players, So, yeah, I mean, it's depressing. It's depressing.
It's really depressing. I mean, they got me. Like, I love space containers, right? I mean, my name in Discord is Spaceship Haku. I love spaceship camos. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, the original ones I thought were fantastic. And then as soon as these came out, I was like, no, don't buy it. No, don't. No, don't. And then I bought 10.
Oof.
Yep. Oof. I can't help myself. It's a spaceship camo. It's so cool.
Yeah. Unfortunately. But I mean, that's the way they get you, right?
Yeah.
Because they're... And this is the thing, right? Like, and this is what I'm saying. Like, Wargaming, to say nothing of things, they have very, very, very good people working in marketing with very solid understandings of, like, consumer behavior and behavioral psychology. Like, they know how to get you to do something. They know how to get you to spend and to, buy stuff. It's like they really know how to manipulate people in that way. I did, like, I was, when I was in school, I did my major in psychology. So I see a lot of the stuff they're doing, and I do catch on to it. And I'm like, oof, I know what you're doing. Like, you look at this time, like the whole Missouri thing, right? At the end, they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna give you guys another option, which is you can complete this mission chain, and if you really want it for doubloons, you can send us what you call it, a support ticket, right?
Yeah.
And then we can redeem the Missouri for you. Okay, it looks innocent on the surface, right? That looks pretty innocent on the surface, right? That you look at that and you're like, oh, yeah, that sounds like an innocent kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But then you think about it. It's like on a behavioral psychology level, what are they really doing? Well, they're targeting a couple of things. One, human beings are really crap at delayed gratification. We're just awfully garbage at that. Okay. Like imagine if you're really hyped for something and somebody says, okay, well hold on a second. You got to delay that gratification for like a full, couple of weeks.
Oh my god.
Yeah, good luck. I don't think that's going to happen, right? Like, I don't know, just pick your most hyped thing that you've been hyped for in your life. I don't know, pick one. Could be a new phone, a new console, whatever, right? And then somebody says to you, no, hold on a second. You can delay that. Yeah, and you need to delay that if you want to do it the right way. First of all, that's really, really hard, right? That's really freaking hard, right? People are not good at that. Second, look at what they said. Well, if you complete this mission chain, you can go to the store and buy for cash. Okay, so you can buy for cash. That's assuming somebody who is then going to pull out a credit card and buy it. Okay, so they give you that option, but specifically for people who have doubloons on their account of sufficient quantity to buy the ship right away, you have to send in an additional thing, which is a ticket. You got to send in a support ticket, and they got to take you through another little loop, right? But here's my other question: what do you actually use doubloons for when Missouri initially drops? It's not Missouri, it's the containers. So the
Oh
most
shit.
readily available currency you have to buy containers, they're going to put you through the longest, most complicated pathway just so that the containers will look more attractive to you. It is
Wow.
behavioral psychology. It's just behavioral psychology 101. They know how to get people to go into that, right? Like they know how to get people to jump for that. And to be like, "Oh, I can't delay this," right?
Yeah.
So it's like you just look at everything they do. It's like everything they say, that's playing a role in the background, right? Um, honest to God, Rule of the Warships, like the most significant thing that needs to happen to get wargaming to wake up, honestly, is a competitor. A competitor needs to come around because something needs to come around that makes wargaming shit their pants. Excuse the language, but it needs to make them shit their absolute freaking pants before any change is going to happen. And I can give you an example of this actually having happened once already. When Armored Warfare came out the first time, before my.com decided to absolutely screw that game out of its, original plans, when it was originally being developed by, I think, Obsidian, right? When Armored Warfare first came out, Wargaming, and this is coming from somebody I talked to internally that used to work on that project, they said that like Wargaming literally shat their pants. They got absolutely terrified that there was going to be a legitimate competitor. And of course,
Yeah.
my.com screwed the whole thing up, and then Wargaming just kind of laughed at it and said, okay, yeah, that didn't really work out. But if there was a warship game that came out that challenged World of Warships, right, for real, in a serious manner, right, and really offered an alternative, yeah, then we might see some more things happen. Because if they have a competitor, yeah.
Yeah, well, then they're not dominating the market. Then, um, there's someone for them to be compared to. Oh, well,
Yeah,
this
exactly.
person doesn't do it that way.
Because War
Yeah.
Thunder isn't it, right? Because whenever people think, look at War Thunder, like, War Thunder, like War Thunder naval forces, like everybody just kind of has a dismissive, they just kind of treat War Thunder naval forces as kind of like, who the hell cares, right?
Yeah.
So,
Why would you
but
bother?
like, is there something else, something that takes people's attention away from the game, or to at least pull the eyeballs away from the game, right? So people see something else, and something that is going to be multiplayer, because single player games aren't super interesting, right? Like, Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts is a great game, but it's not a MMO game, right? You just design a boat and you take it out and you fight a bunch of computers, right? So it's like, okay, it's cool that you design a ship, but it's against computers, right? Where if there was like a multiplayer game, like a multiplayer warships game that wasn't War Thunder, and it's very wacky way of doing ships, but if there was something serious that came out, then yeah, the wargaming might be like, oh, holy hell, we got to be serious because there's something to actually come and take our market share, right?
Yeah.
And again, some people might say, well, okay, maybe the other game has to do certain things. Like maybe that game has to be like free to play, or that game has to, monetize a certain way. And the answer is no, they really don't, because the audience that they're targeting, and this is the general sort of naval warfare interested type audience, again, they're usually older, they have disposable income. If you offer them something that's like, reasonably priced, they'll go for it. Why wouldn't they? Like if it gets their interest, they'll be like, sure, I'll spend the money. Like I've already been spending money on World of Warships anyways, right? Like brand new premium ship is probably the cost of a AAA title, right? If the other game decides to come out and just says, hey, we're going to go AAA title type, price, whatever, for the game, I don't see people being too hesitant about it, just because look at what they're doing for World of Warships. Like, dang, right?
Yeah, I mean, you literally you can buy Friesland, which for me is like 109 Australian dollars,
Oh,
or
Jesus.
it's ridiculous, man. It's
That's
ridiculous. I gotta go take out a small personal loan to get it. It's crazy. Or
that's nuts.
you can pre-order the new 2K.
Yeah, I know, right?
Why wouldn't I?
And also, and here's the insane stuff, right? Here's the insane stuff, and there's all these really funny things I see. So, in the North America region, I don't know if you've seen this, but there was a special for like doubloons or whatever. If you decide to use a Visa card, like a Visa credit card, right? If you just think about that for a second, it's like, okay, so you guys are selling me virtual currency, right? It's all digital, just a bunch of pixels, assuming that I pay for things with my Visa credit card, okay? And then you look at the way that Wargaming talks about it, and the way they worded it. It says, due to the popularity of the previous Visa bundle, we have decided to extend the promotion to Visa card holders for a limited time. To claim your bundle, you must use a Visa card at checkout. Just think about that for a second. Like, think about the wording of that. It's like, due to if you really want to break that down, it's like due to a popularity of a previously, sort of, thing that we decided to put in that's arbitrarily, scarce. We have decided just, to extend that promotion just to make you feel like you have some exclusivity into it. Like, it's just the balloons, right? Like, that's all you're buying. But that's how they get you. That's the game, right? That's what Wargaming keeps doing over and over and over again. They keep playing that game of just getting you to be, sort of like, oh, like, FOMO, and oh, I'm gonna buy into this, right?
Yeah, it's fun.
And they just put it in front of you. And that's all they do, right? A lot of their sales, I mean, that's a really funny thing. Like, my understanding of a sale is that, like, something should be on sale, like, actually, like, an original price to a discounted price. And then Wargaming is like, no, we do the summer sale. And you look at it and you're like, wait a minute, but we've never seen these tokens before. What the hell is this, first time? And then like, what, you arbitrarily made it's like one of those jokes, right? Like, where some stores would like take what you call it, they'll take a price of a TV, right? Like, let's say this is an $800 TV, right? They'll mark it at like $1,600, right? And they'll cross it out, they'll put sale on it, and they'll sell it to for $800, and you think you're getting a deal. That's like Wargaming, like, I see that, I'm just like, I don't think that's the way this is supposed to work, guys. But they're absolutely like, I think they're just absolutely like, dedicated to that method of doing stuff. It just boggles the mind sometimes, the things they pull. But if you really, really like sit down and think about it, that's the game. That's what they're constantly trying to do.
Yeah, it's so smart though. Like, I see something, 85% off. Yeah, I gotta get that. Doesn't matter what it is.
See?
Anything.
Yeah. I mean, that's what psychologists are now. Like, a lot of the people who do like market psychology, or consumer psychology and things like that, the people who specialize in that, that's their job, right? Like, their whole purpose is, how do I get you to do XYZ, right? And if you ever talk to a psychologist and you ask them about it, right, they'll give you the explanation, right? People have all of these shortcomings, on a psychological basis, and if you know how to trigger them, boy, right? Like, they know how to get you, right? If you just think about it, even this way, right? Think about the way that we've all been conditioned by wargaming when it comes to containers. We naturally have a thing that they've been able to train us on to make us want containers.
Yep.
Because every day you play the game, what do you get?
3 containers.
And occasionally, out of those 3 containers, what pops up?
You get a super container.
And that you open it, and
you
every
get
single time that
flags.
happens, right? So your brain starts to release these like really happy neurochemicals every time you get a super container, right? And if you get something really good out of a super container, like let's say a ship or something like that, your brain literally just goes, neurochemicals, and it's like, oh, I want more of that.
Yeah.
More of that. And so next time Wargaming comes to you and goes, hey, by the way, we have these containers with all these shiny things in it. You just have to give us money. Like, you're far more susceptible to that. You're far more likely to go, yeah, sure, take my money.
Sign me up.
Sign me up. Yeah. It is genius in some ways, but at the same time, it's gone too far. Like, if you really look at it, it's just gone too far.
Yeah. soon, what you're going to have to do is buy containers to get battle passes where you can play the actual game. Coming Wargaming 2023 trademark.
Please stop giving them ideas. Please stop giving them ideas. Actually, you don't want to know something really, really horrifying. If you want to hear something really horrifying, and this is something that like recently, I don't know why, because I like it just popped up on Reddit feed the other day. So Star Trek Online. Okay, now here we go, off topic, right? Totally off topic.
Let's
right?
go.
And I don't have the full grasp of the story here, but supposedly Star Trek Online has done exactly that.
Oh no.
They've taken new gameplay content, literally locked it behind a paywall, so you have to pay them to get new content or something. It's crazy.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and their community's rioting as well.
Yeah.
But it's so nuts when you think about it. You're like, oh my god, really? Like gameplay content gets put behind, well, I mean, we already sort of got that, right? Like the early access stuff is already kind of that, right? Like the early access boxes or whatever. Like, but it'll get worse. Imagine in the future, it's like, no. These new maps or new modes are locked behind a container. Like you have to open a container to get a pass to go play that, right?
Yeah.
Submarine test was kind of a thing, although they have their whole, oh no, we did it because technical reasons, right? We don't want too many people playing submarines. But if you really think about it, you're like, yeah, we're really going there, right? Like, it's not going to be a surprise to me in the future if they decide to put like a battle pass behind like a container that you have to open a bunch of and get a pass and unlock new content or whatever. I wouldn't be surprised, but don't give them ideas. They don't need those.
Awful. Guys, please.
Yeah, please
All right.
no. I would just, I don't know. Like,
I'd quit.
honestly, like I just don't know. I'm having very little like I just have very little faith in the direction they're kind of going right now. Like being serious about it all of a sudden. Like I just don't have a lot of faith in Wargaming's current direction. And maybe somewhere along the line something changes, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's really sad.
It's depressing.
It's depressing, man.
Hopefully something changes eventually, because I mean, if they can start changing eventually, maybe they'll win back some of that goodwill, and yeah, maybe something positive happens. But so far, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if Wargaming wanted to get the community on side, come out with a new map and let the one department that everyone loves in Wargaming shine. Let the art department go ham. Because art department have been carrying Wargaming forever. Like, the visuals on the new maps, well, quote unquote new maps, they look fantastic. The water change, everything. Like, it looks amazing.
Yeah, but
He's not make us money. Why we do it?
more like right now, unfortunately, it's just like sort of like more negative than positive, right? I think that's kind of where we're at right now. There's just a lot more negative than there are positive things, and like really, we're kind of waiting for something somewhere to go so wrong that somebody goes, whoa, what the hell happened? Like, and this is really like somebody in higher management, because you have the headquarters, which is in Cyprus, right? And they might not really know what's going on in St. Petersburg, right? Because St. Petersburg is away from them, and as long as the quarterly reports look good, so be it, right? I mean, if that's how the CEO sees it, then maybe there's nothing wrong, right? But if any change is going to happen, it's got to be one of those days where like suddenly they look at it and it's like, holy hell, what happened? What's going on? Why did this quarterly earnings suddenly drop so dramatically? Like, what happened? I think that would be the only way to get the attention of the higher ups, like really, really high ups. And if the high ups then go, okay, who screwed up what? And if they started to see some of the coverage or whatever, and they started figuring out, sort of backtracking, figuring out what went wrong, and the correct people get sort of axed from their jobs or reassigned to different positions, and new people get brought in, then we see change. But yeah, that's really where we are right now.
The CEO literally just has to Google World of Warships. Bang, it's done. It's over.
But I don't think so. I think the CEO is much too busy doing his things. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like and I also think this pandemic has not helped. I think pandemic is another one of those things that has really made the disconnect more apparent. If you think back to the days back long ago, Wargaming CEO used to go to like these in-person events, right? Like Victor Kisley was at the USS Intrepid for Let's Battle tour a bunch of years back.
Mm-hmm.
but he hasn't been to anything recent. There's been no, anybody from Russia showing up. So how disconnected is he? Maybe he's very disconnected, right? Maybe he just doesn't know what's going on anymore. And if he doesn't know what's going on, he doesn't hear it from anybody, then maybe all this is kind of escaping him, right?
Yeah.
And with the pandemic, there's no way for him to show up to anything, right? But maybe in the future, something happens. Who knows?
Who knows?
Cross the fingers, hope for the best.
Guys,
that's
if anyone,
that's currently my take. And also, I'm like cross my fingers, hope for a competitor. I'm in that camp right now.
yeah, if anyone is watching that's friends with Victor Kisley, send this podcast to him. Ichase and I will solve it. Let's go. We can do it.
Anyways, but yeah, that's pretty much it right now. I mean, that's pretty much the most recent sort of things going on World of Warships, and I mean, who knows? Who knows? We can only cross our fingers and hope for the best, and that's it, because nothing else really.
Yeah. So before I let you go, buddy, do you have any projects coming up? I know you stream on Twitch. I'll put your link in the description, but do you have anything in the works?
Mostly it's sort of historical stuff. So my current plan is to do some videos for the sort of pre-Dreadnought, early Dreadnought era, focusing initially on the Kaiserliche Marine. So going back to like the back in the day, to the naval stuff back in the early 20th century, late 19th century, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
More historical stuff. I don't have as much time to make content anyways, just because I'm in school as well. And like I went back to school to study naval architecture, so that's been my primary focus. So any videos I really put out will be just more interest based and just kind of like I'll get it out whenever kind of thing. Yeah. Where I'm just not doing World of Warships anymore. Just like every time I think about their game, I just like in terms of content making, I just want to throw up a little bit. It's just that bad.
Yeah.
Just that kind of negative reaction to it.
Yeah. All right, my friend. Well, this has honestly been a genuine fucking pleasure. Thank you
absolutely.
so much.
It's been fun. Absolutely.
I have to get you on in the future.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me here.
No worries, man. All right, guys. Well, until next time, I'll be interviewing Wookiee Legend. I'm sure all of you know who he is. So look out for that. Stay tuned, and as always, stay safe and don't buy wargaming shit. Catch you guys.
Agreed.